I was always the one cut off at the edges, like a shadow in the corner of someone else's memory. Every family photo told the same silent story. I didn't belong. Christmas, Easter, birthdays, even the random candids that weren't so candid at all. I'd be shoved to the end of the couch, half hidden behind someone taller or conveniently missing from the upload altogether. When I finally worked up the nerve to ask Mom why, she didn't hesitate. She gave me one of those brittle smiles, the kind that's more about control than comfort, and said, "You're just hard to fit in. You ruin the aesthetic." I was 12 years old, and already branded as something unpleasing, something uncooperative. I had thick glasses back then, and my hand-me-down sweaters clashed with whatever coordinated pastel palette my mother and sister had planned for the day. I didn't wear a blush. I didn't straighten my hair. I didn't fit. But I didn't think I was someone to erase. I remember standing in the hallway after that conversation, staring at the family portrait from my cousin Kate's graduation. It hung in a gilded frame like some relic of perfection. My parents, Madison, Aunt Rachel, Uncle Steve, Kate in her cap and gown, and a golden retriever I'd never seen before. Everyone was there, posed just right. Everyone but me. I was at that graduation. I was in the original photo, but I wasn't in the final version that made it onto the wall. At first, I tried harder. I wore the colors, smiled on cue, even practiced posing in the mirror like Madison did. But somehow, I always blinked. My smile never matched. My presence was never quite right. And the comments kept coming. "You always look awkward. Why did you wear that? Oh, we'll fix it later. We'll crop." And they did. Again and again. By the time I was 25, I had stopped fighting it. I stopped standing in the center and quietly migrated behind the camera. I took the photos, organized the poses. I learned everyone's best angles, when to say cheese, when to click. I became the documentarian of other people's happiness. I was always watching them live while I remained behind glass. They liked it better that way. My absence made the pictures cleaner, more palatable. I had become a convenience, someone who could hold the camera, who wouldn't ruin the symmetry. Not someone to be celebrated, not someone to be seen. I didn't complain, not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain had become familiar, expected, like background noise you eventually stop noticing, even though it grates at your nerves. The worst part, they didn't even think they were being cruel. To them, I was just the odd piece in a perfect puzzle, an out-of-place color in their curated palette. Cropping me out wasn't malicious, it was aesthetic, strategic, and I accepted it. Until one day I looked at a group photo from a family barbecue, one I had cooked for, cleaned for, even decorated for, and realized I wasn't in a single frame, not even the wide shots. That night, something shifted. I wasn't angry that I didn't fit into their version of beauty. I was angry I'd let them convince me I never belonged in the picture at all. My family were masters of illusion. On social media, we looked perfect, the all-American clan. Matching pajamas at Christmas, sun-drenched beach photos in July, golden hour selfies on someone's manicured lawn. They posted like their lives depended on it, every image curated like an ad campaign for joy, and in every shot, they glowed. But what those filtered squares never showed was the silence behind the smiles, the pointed looks, the quiet decisions made about who belonged and who didn't. They never showed me. Grandma Louise's 80th birthday was the biggest family event of the year, maybe the decade. My mother called it a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. Everyone was expected to attend. Flights were booked, hotels reserved. They rented out a vineyard estate just outside Santa Barbara, the kind of place with ivy-covered stone walls and lanterns that flickered like something from a Nancy Meyers film. I planned carefully. I knew how these events went, how easy it was to fade into the wallpaper if I didn't try. So I tried. God, did I try. I found a dress months in advance. A soft sage green, floor-length, fitted at the waist. It was elegant, understated, a dress that made me feel like I belonged in a room filled with lace tablecloths and string quartets. It cost more than I could afford, so I skipped dinners out. I packed lunches. I even walked to work for 3 weeks to save gas. But when I arrived at the estate, no one noticed. Not a single compliment, not a single second glance. Madison, of course, wore something in blush pink that matched the floral arrangements. Kate looked like she walked off the cover of Bridesmaid Monthly. They took selfies on the terrace, filmed boomerangs with champagne flutes, laughed as they practiced their candids. I stood behind a column, invisible in plain sight. There was a professional photographer, a tall man with a salt and pepper beard and a fancy camera I recognized from wedding shoots. I hoped maybe this time I'd get a real photo, a captured moment, proof I was there. The next week, the photos went live. Aunt Rachel uploaded them first. A Facebook album titled Louise Turns 80, with a balloon emoji. My mom followed with an Instagram carousel. My sister posted stories all week. Clips of speeches, slow-motion shots of the cake cutting, her twirling under fairy lights. I scrolled and scrolled. 10 group photos, all smiles and linked arms. Madison and Mom, forehead to forehead. Kate with her fiancé in black and white. Even Uncle Ted, who spent most of the night drunk under a heater lamp, made it into 2 shots. I wasn't in a single one. Not even the backgrounds. I sat on the edge of my bed with the lights off, the glow of my screen cutting through the dark. My phone shook in my hands. My throat ached. This wasn't an oversight. It never had been. They didn't forget me. They just didn't see me. Not because I wasn't there. Not because I didn't try. But because to them, I didn't add to the picture. I disrupted it. I cluttered it. And that night, when I finally let myself cry, the kind of sobs that hollow you out, I realized the real heartbreak wasn't just that they left me out. It was that for years I let them. The shift wasn't loud. It didn't come with a lightning bolt or some dramatic moment of defiance. It was subtle, quiet, even, like a door creaking open in a room I thought had been locked forever. It started with Jada. She was a coworker in the marketing department, but calling her that felt too limiting. Jada was kinetic energy in human form, bold lipstick, bold words, bold life. She wore animal prints like armor and walked through the office like she owned every hallway. At first, I was intimidated by her, this woman who seemed allergic to shrinking herself, but somehow she took a liking to me. Maybe it was the way I always stayed late, or how I handled our nightmare client without once raising my voice. Maybe she saw something I didn't, because one afternoon, while we were grabbing coffee during a rare shared break, she just said it. "You know," she said, stirring oat milk into her espresso, "you have such a classic look. Have you ever modeled?" I laughed, a knee-jerk, startled laugh. Me? God, no. But she didn't join in. She tilted her head, examining me with those sharp, smoky-lined eyes. "I'm serious. Your features, they're striking. Unfiltered, real. That's what's in now. Not everyone wants airbrushed clones." I shrugged it off. Compliments were landmines. I never knew how to accept them without feeling exposed. But she wasn't joking. The next day, she sent me an email with a name and a number. "Lance Weber, freelance photographer. Tell him I sent you." I hesitated for a week, then another. I had every excuse lined up. I wasn't model pretty. I didn't know how to pose. I didn't even own good shoes. But late one night, after scrolling past yet another family post where I was nowhere to be found, I thought, what do I have to lose? I texted him. Lance replied quickly, warm, professional. He asked me to bring 3 outfits I felt good in, nothing fancy. "This is about you, not the clothes," he wrote. That stuck with me. The shoot was in a small studio above a flower shop. It smelled like eucalyptus and dust. Natural light spilled through giant windows, and Lance had that rare kind of presence that made silence feel safe. He didn't direct me much, just observed, encouraged, waited. He caught me mid-thought, mid-breath, with my hair wild and my face bare. And for the first time, I didn't flinch when someone lifted a camera. I wasn't trying to match a theme. I wasn't posing to be included. I was just being. And it felt like the most radical thing I'd ever done. 2 weeks later, Lance sent over a few final shots. One of them stopped me cold. I was sitting cross-legged on a wooden stool, eyes straight into the lens, lips soft, not smiling, but present. There was strength there. Vulnerability, too. It wasn't beautiful in the polished, pageant way my family preferred. It was real, and it was me. I didn't know what to expect when Lance submitted the series to a regional fashion magazine. Honestly, I forgot all about it. Life swept me back into meetings and errands and weekends spent alone. So when the editor reached out to feature one of the portraits in their next issue under the title Women Redefining Beauty, I had to read the email twice. And when the glossy print landed in my hands weeks later, my fingers trembled as I turned the page. There I was, front and center, not edited, not airbrushed, not cropped. Scene. The magazine hit stands in early July, slipped quietly onto racks between glossy covers featuring celebrities and seasonal recipes. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't text anyone. No Instagram story. No cryptic caption. I simply bought a copy on a Wednesday morning, held it in my hands, and stared at the full-page photograph that had once only existed in my dreams. There I was, not on the edge, not behind the camera, not cropped. Dead center, poised, certain, lit by golden light that warmed the tones of my skin and softened the lines of my expression. My eyes looked directly into the camera, and somehow into the viewer. The caption beneath it read, Brianna K., 30, finding power in being unapologetically seen. It felt surreal, like stepping into the version of myself I had never been allowed to become. But the moment it became real, truly real, didn't come until a week later. My parents were hosting one of their usual summer barbecues. Our backyard, draped in string lights and the scent of overcooked burgers, buzzed with the same polished chaos it always did. Madison was there, in a flowy sundress that matched the napkins, of course. Kate and her fiancé were playing cornhole with performative competitiveness. My mother floated from guest to guest with her signature glass of white wine, trailing pleasantries and critiques behind her. I was there too, for once, not in the background. But no one had said a word about the magazine until Aunt Rachel showed up. She stormed through the sliding door like a woman on a mission, her oversized sunglasses perched on her head and the magazine clutched in one hand like evidence in a courtroom. Brianna, she half-gasped, half-shrieked, "Is this you?" Time stopped. All the idle conversations evaporated. Heads turned in waves, eyes narrowing, mouths falling open. I glanced at the cover. Yes, it was that issue. And then at the page she had dog-eared, now wide open for everyone to see. My picture. Bold, luminous, centered. Madison's jaw slackened as if her perfect teeth forgot how to fit together. She blinked like I was some ghost from a past she thought she buried. My mother froze mid-step, her wine glass wavering. Color drained from her face in slow motion. My father gave a forced cough and muttered something about the grill needing checking. No one spoke for a beat too long. Then Kate leaned over and squinted at the page. Wait, this is in print? Like, actual print? Oh, it's everywhere, Aunt Rachel said, flipping the magazine around for dramatic effect. I saw it at the salon on Main, and the doctor's office. You can't miss it. She looks like a damn movie star. I stood still, quiet, but inside me, something was roaring. Because I could imagine it. I had imagined it. Every time they cropped me out, every time I heard, "You ruined the aesthetic," every time they turned their backs while I held the camera, I pictured this. A moment where I wasn't waiting to be noticed. I already was. My mom finally found her voice, though it came out thinner than usual. Well, that's a very different look for you. No compliment, no apology, just that brittle, familiar judgment dressed up as observation. But it didn't sting this time. Because this wasn't a photo they could filter, retouch, or quietly erase. It wasn't a moment they could explain away or diminish. They couldn't crop this out. Not anymore. That single photo, the one they hadn't expected, the one they couldn't dismiss, was only the beginning. Within a month, I received an email from the same editor who had first published my portrait. She wanted to do a full feature, not just a photo, but my story, my voice, my name in bold at the top of a page. I sat across from her in a sunlit cafe, answering questions I'd never been asked before, about resilience, about visibility, about what it felt like to take up space after a lifetime of being told not to. The article was called "The Face They Almost Missed." It resonated. Brands started reaching out. Small campaigns at first, indie fashion labels, ethical skincare, a boutique that loved my natural elegance. I walked into shoots where I wasn't told to lose 10 pounds or wear something more flattering. I was asked how I saw myself, what I wanted to express. But the real transformation didn't come from the press. It came from the stillness I felt when I looked in the mirror and saw someone whole. I no longer walked into a room wondering if I matched the mood board. I didn't avoid my mother's gaze or shrink next to Madison's performative perfection. I wore what felt like me. Colors that made my skin glow, jewelry I picked for myself, not borrowed from someone's closet to blend in. And I stopped waiting. Stopped waiting for invitations, for validation, for some half-hearted gesture of inclusion that never truly came. I didn't need to beg for space at their table anymore. I was building my own, and the seats around it were reserved for people who saw me, not just tolerated my presence. Then one afternoon my phone rang. It was Madison. Her tone was breezy, but the undercurrent was unmistakable. That careful, condescending diplomacy she always used when she wanted something without acknowledging that she needed to. "So," she said, "we're doing a holiday shoot again this year. Jewel tones. You totally fit in this time." This time. As if I ever hadn't. As if my exclusion had been a color wheel issue, and not a pattern of quiet cruelty. I could picture the setup already. Cranberry dresses, emerald sweaters, gold accents. The same curated harmony that always looked good on Instagram and felt like isolation in real life. But I didn't feel the old ache, the longing, the tug to belong. Instead, I smiled. "I won't be able to make it this year," I said, my voice calm and steady. "But don't worry, I'll send you a copy of my next cover. I promise I'll be centered." There was a pause on the line. Not long, just enough for the truth to settle in. Then I hung up. No anger. No satisfaction rooted in revenge. Just peace. Because they had propped me out of family photos for years. They had narrowed the frame, tightened the lens, erased me with every shutter click. But now my face was in windows and waiting rooms, in lobbies and bookstores, on shelves they couldn't control. They were the ones standing on the sidelines, eyes widened, mouths closed. And me? I was framed perfectly.